and he added that he couldn't see anything without them. But who was he? But then he fearfully moved away from him and told him to stand. Why would he drink it? The tall guy indignantly declared that he hadn't meant to do any such thing. But he wondered what was wrong with him. And how did he know he was going to kick him? He couldn't see well, but still he noticed it. Uncle Haru said just because he had trouble seeing, he said he couldn't beat him no matter how hard he tried. Hanul looked surprised at those present, and the guy with gray hair smirked and said that he didn't know what was going on here, but Hanul was dead. Hanul asked the teacher, who kept drinking from the bottle, why did this man suddenly attack him? He was standing up and didn't know how to defend himself against a guy with gray hair who was ready to attack. The teacher asked, what was he talking about? He had signed a contract that he could easily be beaten to a pulp. Hanyul asked if that was the case, but the man just shrugged his hands and shrugged his shoulders. Leon, a guy with gray hair, threw a fist at Hanyul's face, causing him to fall to the floor. Leon said that it was in the contract, and it would be strange if he couldn't take down a weakling like him. Hanul stood up holding his cheek and asked his teacher if they could cancel this contract. It would all be in vain if he died without learning how to fight. Leon at this moment thought about the fact that he had hit him with all his might, since he had then. Then he shouted at him, how's he still standing on his feet? He rushed towards him with his fist and punched the guy in the stomach, then said that was not all and kicked him with his foot, raising it up, and lowering it he kicked him again. He looked at the guy lying there and thought, why didn't he feel the blow? Each of his punches had definitely reached their target. Hanul raised himself up on his hands and shouted to his teacher that he asked him to mark the contract or else he would go to the police. Leon was surprised, angry, and asked how he was. The teacher, with a smile on his face, told him that he told him there was no way he could beat him if he took off his glasses. Leon got angry, pointed his finger at the guy and asked, how is that possible? He looks like a piss weakling. The teacher pointed his finger at his eye and said, golden vision. Leon and Hanulni understood, and the man continued to explain that experienced fighters always subconsciously conceal some of their movements when attacking. After all, if the opponent sees your movements from beginning to end, it will not be difficult for him to dodge, but still, no matter how hard you try, you cannot hide everything, namely, the core of your movements. Even the slightest movement of your muscles is reflected in the core on which your movement is based. Leon asked, what does this have to do with this golden vision or whatever? The teacher continued that the reason people don't see the movement of the core of others is because people rely too much on their eyesight. Through their eyes, people see too many things, and can't concentrate on anything else. For example, if your opponent is a gangster with a tattoo that stands out, or a bloodthirsty smile, or if he makes a good move, but this guy's eyes. The teacher pointed at Hanul and continued that he couldn't see any of that, but he could see the core, the basis of all the moves. Leon asked if this was called golden vision. Hanyul raised his hand and apologized for interrupting his teacher when he spoke, but it seems that he made him sign a contract to become a punching bag. But he is by no means capable of anticipating his movements, and he didn't take a vision test here, so how does he know the acuity of his eyesight? The man took the guy's glasses and said that he was trying to wear his glasses. Leon stated that this is all some kind of heresy. How can one person determine another person's eyesight just by wearing his glasses? The teacher started to say that it's because, of course. He put on Hanul's glasses and went on to say that he too has golden eyesight. Leon asked that this meant that because of this vision he could dodge any attacks. He replied that of course not. It's just that his body reacts on automatic to any sudden movements. You could say he has a heightened sixth sense. He's a born fighter. There's probably no one in this country better than him when it comes to dodging attacks. And Gang Leon, with his current speed, doesn't even have a 20% chance of overpowering him. The guy smirked slyly and clarified that if he could take him down, he could take down anyone in this country. He then corrected himself by saying that he should be finished off. Hanul started to back away and said that he didn't believe everything he had just said, did he? The teacher raised his hand and said that this is not the time not to spar. He really values his time, so Leon will have to leave this place. Hanyul exhaled. Leon replied that he was paying double. The teacher immediately agreed. Hanyul asked, what about his own opinion? That's how his vacation started and that's how it ended. He was constantly under a hail of blows. Having learned nothing, he returned to school again. Hanul wondered what was the good feeling he had when he opened his eyes and saw the glasses. Why did the glasses suddenly appear in his eyes? Abruptly waking up, he was breathing heavily and realized that he was sitting on the ground, leaning against a wall, and he was next to a building with a sign saying self-defense for women. He did not understand why he was sleeping in the middle of the street. His teacher was squatting in front of him, pointing at him with a twig. He asked why he was sleeping here. The boy replied that he didn't know how he had gotten here. The man asked that didn't he say that today was the first day of his return. The guy jumped up and ran, apologizing at the same time. The man looked at the guy running away and his niece came up to him and asked that he was hypnotizing Gang Hanul, right? He held a white circle suspended on a string in his hand. The man replied that he had simply set a small lever to release restrained emotions. The girl was surprised and asked what kind of lever. The man replied that it was glasses. As soon as he took them off, the fun would begin. No one at school noticed the difference either, and he was still just as pathetic. He sat on the steps of the building and ate a flatbread. He was rambling that he couldn't believe he hadn't been able to hit him for a whole month. As expected, he had no talent in martial arts. That's when the blonde guy he hated came up to him, followed by two other guys. He asked, "Talent in martial arts? How cute. Is there Hanul learning to fight somewhere? Why would he do that? Does he want to fight them later? Then maybe they'll start the test already." The guy ran towards him, swung his foot and kicked him right in the stomach. Hanul flew off and hit his back against the wall. He was clearing his throat when a blonde guy came over to him, sat down next to him, and said that they promised to take care of him if he would give them some money and bring them lunch. They're kind, aren't they? Now let him say, "Thank you very much." He ruffled the guy's hair, and when he didn't hear a response, he asked, "Is that it? It won't." And swung his hand, saying that one always makes him beat Hanul, you fucking weakling. He punched him in the face, causing his glasses to fall to the ground. The guy stood up and said if he had listened to them, his precious glasses wouldn't have broken. They started to leave, and the blonde guy said afterward to get everything ready for them for tomorrow. He would try and not get beaten. After talking to him, he felt like having a smoke, so he hurried his companions along. That's when Hanul shouted that they were bastards. The three guys stopped, surprised, and then the blonde guy smirked and asked what he said. Hanul stood up and said they could fuck off. Just have them tell him where Gang Dae-chun was. Behind Hanul's back, a bunch of people gathered at the windows. The blonde spotted a mop behind his back, broke it in half, and said that since everyone was here. He took only the wooden part of the mop that had a sharp end on it and ran at the guy, yelling that he was a fucking weakling. Did he want to die? The stick was already at Hanul's head, but then someone broke it even more with a single kick. It was Lie, who angrily asked who allowed them to touch his punching bag without permission.